Larry, welcome here, dear friend. Good to see you after the break that we had. Before we get to Iran and Trump's threats of war 3.0, as our friend Alistair Crook has characterized it, how has the level of U.S. aid to Ukraine increased in the past months under Trump?
Well, it's not clear there's actually been physical money passing, or and no additional weapons flowing in. It appears to just be the provision of intelligence, and you can't underestimate intelligence, because that data is used to target deeper inside Russia at oil refineries, etc. And it has had some deleterious effect, let's call it that, because it has led to a response from Russia that is massive, comprehensive, and very violent. It is, the old saying, don't kick or poke the sleeping bear. Well, we've now really poked that sleeping bear. Russia's awake in a new way that we have not seen in the previous 4 years of the special military operation, and it's proceeding across a broad front, combining ground operations and maritime operations, and then blowing anything up in Kyiv that could be even connected with military industry, drawing up factories, warehouses, going after command centers, going after even government ministries. So it's whatever the United States thought it was doing, and I guess the one thing Trump's announcements and such have made, they fully alienated Russia. That Sergei Lavrov was speaking earlier this week, and he was in a meeting. It may have been with the people from Kazakhstan, but he was scathing, absolutely scathing, in his remarks about Trump, the United States, and the Laurel and Hardy team of Witkoff and Kushner.
Wow. Is this effectively the United States waging war on Russia if U.S. and British intel are targeting Russian assets and Ukrainian troops are using U.S. equipment to hit those targets?
Oh, absolutely. Look, if Russia was doing that to us, we would have had a declaration of war. I mean, look at Donald Trump's crazy meltdown on Thursday, where he claimed, "Oh, the Chinese, they took 220 million of our voting records." And yet you go online and search, there's only 189 million registered voters. So, how could you steal 220 if there's only 189? But apart from that factual problem, but he was using it to gin up anger and animus towards China. Now just think that the information from Russia was being used to kill American citizens, and that cities like San Antonio and Austin and Phoenix and Albuquerque were being attacked. The American people would be demanding that we attack China.
Wow. How poorly thought out are Trump's latest threats on Iran?
Now, use that word "thought." Yeah, there's none of that. None of that's going into this. We use the example, like one of the you got several generals and such claiming, "Hey, we're going to put ground forces on Qeshm Island." So I looked it up yesterday. Qeshm Island is bigger than Okinawa. Okay, So put that into perspective. In World War II, when we invaded Okinawa, we needed 190,000 troops. And they fought ferocious battles that lasted over 3 months. So we think we're going to go into Qeshm and capture it with, 2,000 soldiers, 4,000 soldiers? They got 153,000 people on that island. And nobody wants to explain how are our soldiers magically going to arrive on that island, because they're not going to come through an amphibious assault. You can't get the damn U.S. ships through the Strait of Hormuz because they're going to get blown up. The Iranians just blew up 2 more ships that tried to evade their Persian Gulf Strait Authority protocols last night. So you rule out an amphibious invasion. That leaves you with, you got to drop them by aircraft. Well, the total number of soldiers, paratroopers you can drop out of a C-130 is 92 if they got a full combat load. They said, well, let's go up to a bigger aircraft, the C-17. Yeah, they can do 126. So it's not like we got some magical aircraft that can deploy 500 people. So just getting people onto the island, and then as Alistair Crook mentioned earlier, it's over 50 degrees temperature there now, 50 degrees Celsius, over 110, 115 degrees. Once those soldiers land, they can only take what they can carry on their back, and if nobody's ever had to carry a 90, 110-pound rucksack on their back, then you just need to shut up because you don't know what that entails. The loss of bodily fluids from just sweating, the need to replace those. But where's the water going to come from? I mean, just the logistics, the logistical problems that are involved in trying to support troops in such an effort is insane. And we're if we do this, it's going to get the body bags are going to be coming back and by the hundreds.
Do we know accurately the number of American troops that have been killed so far? We got some new numbers this morning. They're very small numbers. It's hard to believe that these numbers are accurate, given the ferocity of the Iranian response on U.S. bases, Larry.
Yeah, no, the Department of War is suppressing both the actual numbers on killed and wounded, and the severely wounded. There was a report posted right after the attacks the other night on the 2 air bases in Jordan, Mawafaq al-Salti and the Prince Hassan base, that said that the medevac flight, the C-17 carrying the wounded to Germany, had at least 3 to 5 soldiers on board that they didn't expect them to survive the flight, and we haven't heard anything about that. There's a shutdown of information. You're not seeing the photographs from Germany when the plane lands and the ambulances pull up to take the wounded to the nearby hospital. I think it's Landstuhl. So this is going to be one of the problems that Trump's facing as he tries to ratchet this up, and especially if he succumbs to those telling him, "Oh yeah, let's do a ground operation. That'll teach him." It's going to further undermine his presidency.
My former friend Pete Hegseth really got under my skin when I heard him say these were heroes who made the ultimate sacrifice. They weren't heroes. They were victims. They were sitting ducks of American incompetence in an illegal war. And you shouldn't be celebrating their deaths. You should be getting their colleagues the hell out of there. That's what I said when I heard this. And I still stand by it, Larry. I expect you agree with me. The United States government is just going to paper over these deaths.
Yes. And what it's also covering up, and again, I want to reinforce a point that Alistair made. It's one that I've been making now for more than 3 weeks. What we're witnessing is Iran's first priority is driving the United States out of the Persian Gulf and then out of Jordan. Some have said, "Well, why haven't they attacked Israel? They're not going to go pick a new fight until they conclude with this other one." And what's happening is U.S. air assets that used to be forward deployed, you basically had 4 airfields: Al Dhafra in the United Arab Emirates, Al Udeid, the biggest base in the Middle East, in Qatar, Al Issa airfield in Bahrain, and then Ali Salman in Kuwait. So effectively now, all U.S. air assets have been forced out of there. Reportedly, there are KC-135 still operating in Prince Saud base in Saudi Arabia, and then these 2 air bases in Jordan. Yet, while you were gone, and by the way, welcome back. I'm gonna stop getting emails. God, where's the judge? But
a lot of people stopped me in Italy saying, "Where's Larry Johnson?"
But about a week ago, the United States has this white elephant. It's called the Triton. It's a drone. It only costs $250 million. Repeat that, $250 million for one drone. And it was designed to do prolonged aerial surveillance. They could fly it over Iran. Well, they've withdrawn it. It's at Sigonella. I thought initially they might have taken it to Cyprus, but no, they went back to the U.S. base at Sigonella in Italy. Because they can't keep it safe in Jordan. It's too risky. And I think what you're seeing Iran doing now is a methodical attack on U.S. air assets. And if they all withdraw to Israel, then at some point, Iran's attacks will be unleashed on Israel, on those air bases. And we've seen some really curious actions by the Israelis. A week ago, the Minister of Transportation told the United States, "Get all your KC-135 refuelers the hell out of here. We don't get them out. Go leave, go elsewhere." And it took about 2 days for Bibi Netanyahu to, wake up from his coma to override that. But the fact that you had a senior, Israeli minister trying to stop the United States from coming into Israel shows even their nervousness about the fact that we get all these KC-135s here, we're going to be a target. And what makes today different than what happened last June, the 12-day war, is Iran is now relying exclusively on the Beidou satellite system that China has put up. It's a replacement for GPS. Turns out last June, Iran was relying upon GPS, which is a U.S. system, and the U.S. had a backdoor into it where any missile that Iran was firing with GPS coordinates, coded in, the United States could actually go in, redirect the missile, spoof it in a way that it had different coordinates, which means the Iranian attacks were not nearly as effective as they could have been. Well, that hasn't been the problem in this war. And I think the Department of War planners and such have actually been somewhat surprised with the accuracy of the Iranian missiles.
Is the United States running out of ammo?
Yes, short answer. On the missile front. So we're talking air defense systems. You've got the PAC-3 and the THAAD. I'd written about the PAC-3, months ago that, originally there were only over like 6,200 of these missiles produced, and you have to fire 2 of those for every single target they're trying to take down. We witnessed in Jordan on Friday, there were apparently 2 inbound missiles. The Jordanians fired at least 10 of these air defense missiles. I'm assuming they were PAC-3s. They missed. And Ted Postal can talk about this, the fact that the PAC-3 has less than 10% interception rate. But the point is, they're probably down to about 200 left in the entire inventory. Let's remember, we're not looking at just supplying Central Command. You've got the European Command, EUCOM, whose mission is got to be prepared to fight the Russians. And then you've got PACOM, which is the Pacific Command, who's got China. So, divide up 200 PAC-3 missiles between those 3. And understand, if they each got about 80, that means they could potentially try to stop 40 targets. After that, they're out. The same thing with the HIMARS uses 3 types of missiles. All 3 are in short supply with the latest, what's called the Precision Strike missile. It goes about 300 miles. And so if you launch it from Kuwait or Bahrain, then you could reach targets down along the Iranian coast, at least, maybe down to Bandar Abbas. Actually, is shy of that. But the point is, that's now out, exhausted. They don't have any more of that. So you just run down the list: Tomahawks, JASSMs, the cruise missile fired from the aircraft, HARM missiles, and when you total it all up, all of these missiles, to reproduce them, you need about 4 to 6 different types of rare earth minerals to build the magnets that go into the nose cone that is used to guide for the precision of these missiles. China controls that overwhelmingly. They do like 94% of the refining of the manufacture of the magnets, and 91% of the refining. So the United States we're using up weaponry that we cannot easily or quickly replace, and the American people are not being told that by the government itself. There are other people out there like me that are raising this alarm, but that's what's going on.
Wow. And the cost, Chris, I think we have full screen on the cost. So they want 80 billion more for the Iran war. They want 1.5 trillion for the fiscal year. According to Hegseth, the current estimated cost of the Iran war so far has been 30 billion. Do you buy the first number? They need another 80. And do you buy the third number? They've cost 30.
Oh yeah, at least. I think those are conservative estimates. And note what's happening, that when Trump came into office, January 20th, just 18 months ago, the U.S. Debt was $37 trillion. Now it's 40 trillion. He's added $3 trillion in debt in 18 months.
Wow.
So that's number one. Number two, with what's not really captured in those statistics is the fact that we get to the actual shortage. There is a global shortage now of diesel and aviation fuel, and that is directly related to the shutdown of the Strait of Hormuz, because the Strait of Hormuz produces this oil that's heavy with sulfur content. It's called sour crude. The refineries, like in the United States, 70% of our refineries are set up to deal with sour crude. The United States produces an abundance of sweet oil. We're exporting the sweet oil. The problem is those refineries don't handle that oil. It just, they have to be specifically designed to handle certain types of oil, and we don't have alternatives. It's true we're getting sour crude from Canada, Mexico, Venezuela, but that's not enough to make up what was lost from the Persian Gulf. The United States has been a net importer of that sour crude. And so now what we've got is you got a global shortage. And so what happens with that? The price of aviation fuel goes up, price of diesel goes up, and that's adding to this cost of the war. That's why, wasn't taking a detour here, but trying to point out, embedded in that are the cost, not only the increased fuel, but we're losing aircraft. Like, they took out a bunch of Black Hawks the other day. They've destroyed reportedly a P-8 Poseidon, which is it's an aircraft that helps provide radar coverage over the water. So the United States is losing aircraft that we also cannot quickly replace. And I had one of my military buddies. He sent me a note, and he said he's hearing from guys, other guys that he works with that are scattered out through CENTCOM and other places, and he says, it's not about epic fury or whether we should even be there or not anymore. This whole conflict is turning into Black Hawk Down. That the United States Air Force is viewing these strikes as crucial to their own survival and their aircraft. So this is not a celebratory moment. This is a very serious deficit that the United States is entering into, and it's one that we cannot easily recover from. I'm not saying it's unrecoverable, but the timeline on replacing like some of these missile systems that are being fired are years, not months, years.
When I filled up my tank in my vehicle right before the 4th of July at my neighborhood gas station in Northwest New Jersey, it was $4 a gallon. When I filled it up yesterday, it was $5 a gallon, $1 a gallon in 2 weeks.
Yeah. I was at the gas station on Saturday filling up, and one of the pumps were running real slow. It was taking like minutes to just put a gallon into the tank. So as I'm standing there, the guy comes out of the office, walks over to the sign, increases the price of gas 2 cents just while I'm standing. Oh,
wow,
that's a good sign.
Well, that I've never seen. I want to play a clip because we have taunted him while alive and commented now on his death of Lindsey Graham. This is put together by our friend Rick Sanchez of Russia Today, whom you and I know well, and with whom I had the privilege of working when he was at Fox a long time ago. But here's Lindsey Graham at his worst.
He was also known, of late especially, for appearing in public. Yeah. I mean, it could happen to anybody, but it happened to him several times, and it's out there. Appearing in public drunk. He would show up at events, and he would show up at interviews sounding like this.
We got to give them a chance to see the difference between us and liberal Democrats.
Well, what we're going to do is, well, I'm not going to agree. That would grind it to a halt. You couldn't deal with mass. We're not dealing with the
sanctuary states.
Yeah, sanctuary under existing law that of the United States. Okay, who's Kim Davis, folks? Nothing to do with illegal immigration. I agree with her political, philosophical, not a religious view.
I didn't know he was that drunk. Did you?
Yeah, I heard he had a fondness for the bottle, but among other things, you know, it was he was one of the most pernicious, malicious, malignant influences on U.S. foreign policy. And what was so crazy about it is he had been a strong anti-Trumper, and then yet Trump still hung out with him, played golf with him, listened to him. Just shocking. And Lindsey, I have my former business partner has been involved with a whistleblower case, and the evidence that he's been presented shows that money would have been flowing into Lindsey's bank account from Ukraine, and the money was being laundered via Latvia, Lithuania, and apparently Israel. So he was profiting off this war, and this wasn't about protecting America. So it was serving Lindsey's own personal greed. So with him gone now, that's one less voice whispering into Trump's ear. But the problem is Trump is surrounded by people like Stephen Miller and others, and then you got the outsiders, the Jack Keanes, and then the Keith Kellogg's, who continue to offer terrible advice and encouragement and convince him that, oh yeah, this will be easy. All we got to do is a little more pressure on Iran, and they're going to fold. And Iran's not going to fold. The one thing that Americans should really be paying attention to is a statement from one of the Iranian legislators who was connected, well tied into the IRGC. And he said, look, if the United States continues these attacks on us, one, we're going to shut down the Strait of the Bab el-Mandab Strait. In fact, just before we came on air, the Yemenis announced they're shutting down Bab el-Mandab for Saudi Arabia. They're not going to let any Saudi ships carrying oil go out of the Bab el-Mandab. So that's a significant escalation right there. They also said we're going to review our nuclear doctrine. Well, when your nuclear doctrine is we're not going to have nukes, when you do a review, that goes in only one direction. That goes towards we may have nukes. And then the third kicker was to withdraw from the Non-Proliferation Treaty. Right now, we're waiting to see what action the Iranian parliament takes. If they move in that direction, then that could be a sign that Iran is now saying, what is past is past. We're now going to make sure that we have a deterrent against any future threats from Israel or the United States.
Does Donald Trump's signature on an international document mean anything?
No, absolutely not. And I mean, it's not just the MOU. Go back, and it's not just Donald Trump. It's the United States. And this is the point that Sergei Lavrov has made over and over, that the United States is agreement incapable. You know, the U.S. walked away from the Anti-Ballistic Missile Treaty. George W. Bush did that. Donald Trump walked away from the Intermediate Nuclear Forces Agreement. And then you had this MOU that the United States violated every single part of it. And when Trump declared it dead more than a week ago, Thursday, about 10 days ago, it took Iran about another week to come out and say, okay, yeah, it's done. It's toast. We're no longer going to abide by it.
Wow. Larry, thank you very much, my dear friend. Nothing changed in the 2 weeks that I was away, except that Lindsey Graham is gone.
Well, no, it got worse while you were away. Okay,
Yes.
I think Congress will pass a law. Napolitano doesn't get to take any more vacations.
You're a good man, Larry. Thank you. We look forward to seeing you with the roundtable on Friday.
All right, my friend. Thank you.
All the best.